Hi everybody, and it's time for the home stretch, our final matchup of the day, Av3k versus RAISY, here for our latest week of the Quake Pro League. Thank you very much. I want to extend a final thank you for your patience today, much appreciated, and I'm sure the games have more than made up for it. It has been a wild day of unusual matches, really close matches, great storylines, and players that are getting that one step closer towards their final standings, right, as we lead up to the finals.
Yeah, I think the matchups today I would have expected to be fairly set in stone have been the ones that have been the most erratic, to say the least. So it's been confusing, but entertaining all at the same time. And we end on an absolute banger, which is, you know, two of the most informed players in the league today playing hyper-aggressive Quake. So couldn't ask for anything better.
It's like the almost new generation of aggression versus the innovators of the technique, you know, the whole play style.
Yeah.
I remember when RAISY first started in competitive Quake Champions and was obviously coined for the aggression. Comments upon comments upon comments saying, well, hang on a minute. There's a player that wrote the book on that, and his name is Av3k. And how fitting now that he would be here, going up against the likes of, well, all of the players here that you can see before you. And it's kind of been back and forth, but at the same time has had respectable amount of maps conquered. And going up against someone like RAISY here would be one hell of an opponent to add to the list of success, I suppose. But I guess the same could be said for RAISY, couldn't it?
Exactly. Yeah, obviously a slow start to the season. Av3k normally seems to have those, but then has brought it back really strongly in recent weeks. Then he goes up against RAISY, who hasn't been as dominating as a couple of seasons ago. I think the last few stages, in fact, definitely mixed up his play style to try and be a little bit more consistent and just less commanding. But you can see the results speak for themselves. Obviously losing Kilson 2-1 in the first week, but then has brought it back to been stellar throughout. And then that Strong Sage blip. When I say blip, I mean it was phenomenal by Strong Sage, but given the progression of RAISY, it was out of the blue a little bit. However, still had an incredible season so far, and he's always going to be one of the favourites to take the top of the leaderboard.
Now, on the opposite end of that, though, I'm looking forward to seeing those picks and bans, because I do wonder if there's going to be any little extras just kind of thrown in there, because RAISY is the kind of player that, on his own merits, I suppose, and whether that comes down to trying to come up with various stream ideas or whatever it is, sometimes can find little bits and bobs that just gives him a bit of an edge. Doesn't look like we're getting a lot of that here, as the clutch was removed immediately. Totally makes sense. Ranger taken away, and then the BJ taken away on Corrupted Keep. Everything else is pretty standard. Anarchy versus Slash on Ruins. You can expect absolute focus on those light armors when you have a battle of two light champions on that map. If one person can take away the two lights, it is a nightmare for the opponent to get back up on the horse, I suppose. And then Vale of Pnath afterwards, the Ison versus the Strog. Corrupted Keep Doomslayer on the Corrupted Keep going up against the Galena from the side of Av3k here. Prediction-wise, I imagine this one to be a bit close from the people at home. I'm not like DJ Wee. I don't sort of check the stream as and when it happens, so I don't have the same information that Wheat would normally bring forward here, but I would imagine it's pretty close, right?
We is the stream. I would imagine so. I don't think anyone's going to predict this to be massively one way or the other. I feel that if RAISY turns up and can play RAISY's game, he has a good handle on Av3k's aggression, and we've seen in the past he can punish that. Nevertheless, Av3k is always Av3k and has been on a bit of a tear recently. I don't think from the draft alone, I don't think it's any one way or the other. The biggest map to watch out is definitely obviously Ruins. We have the light versus light. That could always be a little bit funky. If Slash can get that dominating control and punish the Anarchy in and around that inject, it can be quite painful, but at the same time, Anarchy is just slightly easier to execute overall on Ruins. So I don't think anything from the draft is going to be particularly telling. It really is going to come down to just who can play better.
And that, with the likes of these two players, is often on a day-by-day basis. When players tend to be on that upper echelon, it makes their encounters so exciting because you can have players and they'll encounter each other in a tournament the day before, and then they'll play the very next day, and it could be a totally different result. It makes the whole thing so much more unpredictable. And two players that are incredibly good in the, as I've said before, the mental game, where you can kind of disengage anything that would have happened in previous events, previous tournaments, even in the set, as and when it's taking place, to just go, this is a map by map basis. And that is a strength that is only impressive, because to be able to take a game as demanding and competitively stressful as Quake champions, to disregard something that happened merely 10 minutes ago, maybe even less, depending on how a map ends, and go, right, refresh, deep breath, let's go again, and be totally unfazed by that. That is where the highest caliber of Quake becomes absolutely ridiculous, because I don't know how they do it. I get tilted so easy, right? I think a lot of people do, especially in a, you're working your ass off for 10 minutes, something goes wrong right at the end or whatever the case may be, and then, right, straight into a match, it's like nothing ever happened, and you're playing at that absolute high level again. It's kind of ridiculous, but it's really impressive.
Yeah, Quake in itself is such a momentum-based game as well. You can't let that get the best of you, because if it begins to spin out of control, then sometimes there's no pulling it back. That's the fun thing about Quake. It is incredibly mental, and in those moments you have almost instant gratification to get to correct it as well. You could do something right, so it's finding that balance. Because if you end up forcing it and running into brick walls, you could just throw the game away. So it is very much mental, particularly if at top level. But neither one of these players really has an issue with that. They're two of the most stone cold killers in the QPL. But if we're going to be looking at these predictions, then catch up, from my side anyway, I think I have to favor RAISY. I'm going to say 3-0. I think it'll be close throughout the board, but I think RAISY has that 3-0 in him.
There's a certain level of fluidity, I think, that RAISY can sometimes bring to a map. And that is just when all the pieces are working perfectly and RAISY is just in the zone. You can tell when RAISY's in the zone. It can happen halfway through a map. It can happen right near the end. It's when RAISY starts to, quote unquote, have fun when these matches take place. Sometimes it's when you get the occasional gauntlet kill or whatever it is. The second RAISY is having the most fun, it just feels like he's playing the loosest, which just means that everything is just working up here, everything's working with your hands. And that is something that I have rarely seen a player break once that happens. Now, Av3k, on the other hand, is the kind of player that could definitely have a fantastic start and stop that from even happening. The Battle of the Two Light Champions, as we mentioned earlier, this is Ruins of Sarnath, right? This is a map notoriously hard for light champions to come back from, especially if the opponent is taking away these light armors. The one that Av3k just picked up here. If that's not there, then you're... What? How did that do 100 damage?
RAISY's not even taking the heavy. Just walking into the rockets, it seems.
Oh, RAISY, he's not incredibly healthy off the back of that because of it, but he does live to fight. Another good rocket. Av3k has had some fantastic rockets, and we're not even a minute in so far. You can keep that up. Couple that with some delicious rails. RAISY's going to have to be a little bit careful in these sort of mid-range engagements so far. We haven't even had a chance to see LG come out to play yet.
No, and Av3k in all the chaos has also delayed that mega significantly, so doing to RAISY what RAISY did to Av3k. RAISY doesn't know the exact timing, but he's done enough pressure with the earlier rail to delay Av3k's advances and pick that up himself. He now might feel a little bit confident to pressure onto this heavy. The air control, obviously, is going to drop straight onto Av3k. Big rocket coming out to under second. Av3k's LG is phenomenal, though, and he will pick up that first frag.
A very, very scary first fight that results in a frag. Because Av3k was clearly ready for that. These players have gone head-to-head so many times. They are so in tune with each other's gameplay that you were saying that taking that mega, it was likely that RAISY was going to be confident enough now to drop down, and just LG? Okay. LG out of nowhere. But this is where the set gets so exciting. They know each other so well that these moments of just explosive aggression, they both know it's a strong possibility and they're so prepared for it. RAISY now getting a second frag here, 2-1. Not interested in pushing out here towards the Mega, and actually springs a trap and takes him by surprise!
Just RAISY things.
I was almost surprised that Av3k didn't look around that corner. You know, from that instance, you're used to people pushing forward because they're in position for Mega.
Well, exactly. Normal old school Quake players in that situation defend the choke point, whereas RAISY, being RAISY, allows you through the choke point. So it is a bit disconcerting, and yeah, big frag coming out and a conversion as well.
RAISY's been consistently surviving here with just the tiniest amount of stack. Another aggressive push punished by 2 consecutive rockets.
How has RAISY not died in any one of these engagements? He's been so low every time, and the Av3k strategy of throwing your body at the wall normally would work, but I have no idea how it didn't this time. And this is a winning score now. Like, 6-0 on the Ruins is a winning score.
Another aggressive push. Good positioning from Av3k, though, allowed RAISY to get nothing from that, forced to disengage and retreat. RAISY is going to be in a good position now for this heavy. The inject. And another frag, 7-0. And another situation, ZSX, where man's alive.
Not again! A full rocket through the TP. Oh, dear, this is... Oh, no.
This is when RAISY is at his scariest, though. When he's doing stuff like this that makes people lose their minds, and he's just stone-faced. Not a thought, only victory. And this comes back to what I was talking about. Oh my lord, that LG just continuing to be good. He's done over 200 damage in that! Av3k,
just let him limp away. Yeah, let him limp away on his skates. Who cares? Oh my lord, Ketchup. Where do we go from here?
It really depends on whether soon Av3k is able to break this cycle. Do you remember what I said right at the start, where RAISY is at his most dangerous, where it looks like he's just having the time of his life? You know, he wants to push you, so he just does it. He hits this ridiculous amount of shots now, gets damage that you just don't expect. Spring in traps. This is the RAISY that everyone's familiar with, right? And it's unlikely, and uncommon, I think is more accurate, that players can break into that. But you have to now if you want to mount a comeback. We're 5 minutes in already. RAISY, 9-0. Av3k yet to get a single frag on the board here. And RAISY hanging back with this rail. There's the inject. Now knowing full well my opponent is low.
And the crazy thing about this whole circumstance is that we're 9-0. It doesn't feel that Av3k has made a particularly wrong choice.
No.
All of these pushes were justified. And it was just insane mechanically that RAISY was able to survive, coupled with potentially a little bit of luck and circumstance, but ultimately RAISY just executed phenomenally. Simple as that.
This fight didn't exactly favor RAISY at the very beginning, though. Out of range for the LG, but no worries.
He's going to wait out the inject and just back off instead.
No need to make every fight happen. There's an element of maturity from RAISY over the years is not being so bloodthirsty, I think is the word to use. He is happy sometimes to disengage and just leave his opponent weak, knowing that that in itself can be just as much of a victory. The time it takes for them to bring themselves back, that's a very different story, sometimes an even worse situation. Especially on a map like this. Remember, as we said, oh, God. Good Lord.
Inside out by a shotgun.
In the blink of an eye. This game doesn't have jump scares, but that certainly counted as one. More of this aggressive play. 100 flat damage on that super shotgun. That hurts.
Yeah, this is why Anarchy can be really scary against a Slash. It can go both ways. If Slash gets the same progression, it can go that way. But if not, the inject alone, coupled with the air control, the speed, the Anarchy can just do this in part.
The ultimate best friend's betrayal. You saw it here first. Oh! Alright. Starting to fight back with a few rails, but nothing that RAISY's going to shy away from just yet. Knowing that... Oh... Having a rocket placed that well because you heard the plasma trail and you knew to fire earlier, that is experience right there. And it just continues to snowball. A drop down, and this LG from RAISY, I've got to look at it. RAISY's LG has only been 37% statistically, but in some of these fights, it just looks so much worse. It looks so much scarier. I don't mean worse as in bad. I mean worse as in more dangerous.
Oh, come on.
At least give him one.
Oh, my lord.
RAISY surviving, hanging on by a thread for what feels like at least 10 of the 15 frags so far, Dan. If anything's going to annoy a player, that is the one, because how many times have you fragged someone in this game, or you've been fragged and you've been like, how low are you? They type in the chat and they go, HP, question mark? It's like, I've got to know. Oh, and there's the gauntlet! The gauntlet's come out.
It's called min-maxing catch-up, I think is the technical term.
But yeah, the gauntlet comes out and so does the close range. Looks like Av3k should be able to secure one here, but I mean, look, don't matter. The damage and the work has been done. RAISY now 16-1 here, a minute and a half on Ruins. That ain't happening. But what is going to happen is RAISY feeling pretty good about that as we go into our second map. It's not very common that Av3k has to suffer a scoreline like this, you know? And when any player of this caliber goes head-to-head, but just RAISY, when he's having a day where he's just on it, these maps can happen.
And this is just also circumstance around Av3k's playstyle. That he will just throw his body at you to break that barrier. And if the barrier doesn't break, these type of scorelines happen. We've seen it. It doesn't happen very often because usually he can execute, get in control, and then build his lead. But in moments where he doesn't get through, this is exactly what can happen. And we have seen it a number of times, both in Quake Champions, in Quake Live, and Quake 4. It's just part of Av3k's playstyle. So today was one of those days.
However, you know, we're talking as if the series is done and dusted, and it's far from. This is only going to be one map here, and we have 2 left to go, so always a chance that Av3k can turn this around, and maybe things just work out a little bit better. It was a combination of various things, one of which being RAISY hanging on by a thread in countless occasions, where that's not particularly consistent. You know, you very rarely see a game with fights that happen here, and someone just consistently lives with what feels like 1 HP. That is not a common occurrence. So truth be told, I don't see this hindering Av3k's playstyles in the maps to come. Because if you were to look at how this went and go, well, RAISY was able to somewhat fortify here, and there was an element of a brick wall where he pushes or is getting pushed on and survives with no health. That ain't gonna happen every single match. I mean, look at the damage, actually. 3,861 for Av3k, 3,862 for RAISY. They had one damage's worth in between, but it was a 4-16 scoreline. If that doesn't go to show those really weird occurrences in most fights when they had identical damage, I don't know what does.
Almost forgot that Av3k took the lead as well, and then this was the clawback, and then from there on out, it was just carnage. This was nice, though, to be fair.
Well played indeed. And a very RAISY maneuver, as you quite rightly pointed out there, right? Happy to let you push forward rather than defending the choke point, which I certainly thought he was going to do. And then the second I saw him hang around that corner, I'm like, oh, I understand now. It's RAISY.
But it was, yeah, it's just one of those. It's one of those games. It wasn't Av3k tilting at all. That was just the way Av3k plays, and that's what happens if it doesn't go your way sometimes. The amount of times, as you mentioned it, RAISY got away so little health with the frag, was able to restack and get on with the game, was insurmountable for Av3k. But he went toe-to-toe throughout, as you said. The damage was bang on even, so he couldn't have done anything better, really. I think he played a good game. He just got a little bit unlucky in some of those engagements, and RAISY just executed better.
But it'll be Vale of Pnath as our next destination here. Medium champions, right? So a little bit more bulk to work with. The difference of movement from Av3k and then as we've seen many times, the utility that Ison brings to the table on this map, whether it's a bit of denial, whether it's extra information, whether it's just an extra annoyance factor on a choke point that someone really wants to hold, you know, the top of a teleporter or something similar. Something that RAISY could once again take full advantage of if these fights go his way. The difference could be in that maneuverability, which might become a little bit more important later down the line. You know, it really depends on who gets an early start here. Again, similar to Ruins. It just happened on Ruins that RAISY was able to start running away with it. Not as likely on Vale, with the exception of early domination, which RAISY kind of seems more capable of than most. It's just the way he plays in general.
Obviously, Av3k needs to try and avoid the situation where he's in that same scenario where he's running at RAISY trying to whittle him down and get through, because Vale is a map you can have that lockdown on. You can control both major items and you can fall into that trap of trying to break through. There's a lot in between now and that happening, but it could very much happen as well.
It'll be Av3k's point of view that we have a look through as we start this map. Standard start, looking for a potential rail angle here. You know, the heavy's already been snapped up. And it's LG time now. Opening rail. Absolutely lovely shot that he was able to find there. And no need to push. You know, we've put RAISY a little bit behind with that rail that he couldn't contest. Maybe we can build towards the next objective. In this case, it did take so long for the Mega to be taken that heavy is ripe for the taking. And it looks like an item that's going to be conceded as well, as RAISY steps back and opts to take some important weapons instead. You know, we'll take a bit of a trade there. Oh, there's a rail though. Av3k forced to that teleporter. Not going to care too much about that rail, as the Mega is up here, so he's able to stop the bleeding, but RAISY taking a fair old trade there for the weapon.
Just delaying as well as RAISY sneaking around in the catacombs down below. Slowing it down as well. Both being very cautious.
RAISY has been very respectful. There's almost an element of a Wenger here, where he's happy to let Av3k take these items because he has the weapons in hand that he can stop what they're trying to do. You know, he can take away the value of that item with one well-timed rail if he's able to find a slippery little angle, which it looks like he had been able to do, at least there. And Av3k in a position now where he's kind of just looking for his opponent. This next item's going to be important, but he can't be too aggressive.
Timing.
Well done there from RAISY. Takes out the Pika at the same time. And RAISY's built himself up a bunch of armor in that sequence. And it looks like now is the time to push himself forward. A lovely, lovely rail there from Av3k that just stops that advance dead in its tracks. And it has been a bit of a stalemate so far.
Same again, just creeping around down below. Like, yeah. Oh, nice by Av3k though, the flick through the TP. And RAISY needs to evacuate the area. This time the shenanigans aren't going to pay dividends as Av3k is ready for them. He's got full control of this map.
That turret's going to stop the advance by a few seconds, but it's not going to do anything to stop the fact that Av3k is in better position for this next item. And there is a rail. That rail paired with this Mega pickup has just put RAISY in a rather unfortunate position. And Av3k's making chase. The time is now to maybe take the lead here. He's arguably been in the lead in terms of control since this map started, but as long as RAISY's been healthy...
Oh, Pika chased him all around the map, got a full blast, but he's going to push on into a turret, in fact, and lose out on position of that Mega. So all the hard work of Av3k being undone a little bit there by Greedy. Nice preventative play by RAISY to defend the entryway. He's got himself back in stack control.
That was gorgeous defensive play from RAISY for all 3 minutes. Knowing that his opponent controls the stronger positions of the map, but playing such a strong defensive game, and that turret has absolutely been one of the reasons he could do that. To now forcing Av3k, the one time Av3k decided, right, I'm going to push out, I'm going to try and get something happening here, was the moment RAISY punished him for it. And that momentum has flipped on its head. It's now RAISY controlling the high ground here, and the question's going to be, can RAISY defend the high ground as well as Av3k could? Because now the push out is real. The damage is fantastic too. That Pika certainly didn't tickle, but it's going to be the major item in the hand of RAISY. And Av3k is not very healthy at all. And with Mega being 12 seconds away, that is more than enough time now for RAISY to put himself back up there. And we have just had a complete swap of momentum. So much has happened in 4 minutes, even without a frag landing. It's all about controlling this map. Who controls where?
For the most part, RAISY's getting the upper hand in terms of strategy. Av3k's had great control, but just been unable to do anything. And then RAISY drops down from above and gets the first frag.
And that changes the dynamic. Fresh off the spawn. Yep, the rail's in play, and looks to me like Av3k opted not to take the LG. Wanted to push out a little bit first, but with only a rail in hand and a nail gun, that shotgun, that was a pretty scary weapon to get caught by. They trade the rails, but that trade's only going to benefit RAISY, who has significantly more stack. The read! The read! Are you kidding me?
Boy. Yeah, Av3k is clutching at straws. We're trying to find RAISY a lot of this time. He's going to very early hit, no stack. He's done so much damage, though.
He's so early on the Mega. Right. There was 9 seconds left on that Mega, those NSX.
It was desperation. He had so much damage, but it was still desperation, as you say. RAISY had all the timing information in the world to play around that aggression. He's just completely managed Av3k start to finish so far. Still a long way to go on this map. No, levitated, but he does pick up the heavy armor for now. He's taken a lot of damage once again.
Sadly, that armor didn't do much for Av3k right now. Sitting on 90 at the moment, and that's not going to be enough to make RAISY give a damn. The defensive rockets to say, keep out of my domain, please, and thank you. I'm going to take this Mega, and I'm going to make your life a living hell. Yeah, that predictive rocket right round near light that got the ring out was one of the rockets of the entire show tonight. What an absolutely ridiculous prediction there from RAISY. And he was bang on the money. The moment that happened, Av3k came flying around that corner. The ring out was definitely just a bonus of that, but I guess we'll call that a happy little accident. Oh, these rockets. Av3k stuck in a horrible, horrible position right there. Had to concede a bit of damage just to escape with his life. But escaping with your life is only one part of this struggle. You need to get 3 frags just to equalize on an opponent that had comfortably swapped the momentum and controls far more of the map. And there he is around the corner. RAISY hears the peeker and decides, hello, now it's my time to push out. Lovely rail from Av3k. Lovely rail. Doesn't get as much good fortune with that rocket, though, as it's not going to stop RAISY from collecting the heavy. And things go from bad to worse. A major push. Av3k relegated again, Dan, to the rail room.
And RAISY's doing an incredible job of being a Pac-Man at the moment. He's taken all of the resources away from Av3k, so he can't do anything. And it was such a smart drop to delay that heavy drop into Av3k's path, because he was expecting RAISY to try and swoop away with that heavy armor. He's done it again, just dropping down nice and early to punish picking up that light. He knows exactly the timing, got the read on the angles. Av3k is forced to try and take these aggressive maneuvers to try and stay in this game, but look how low he is. No way, Av3k!
Let's go! What a combo! Even with RAISY trying to be as careful as possible, you'll notice that when the Pika came out down there, RAISY opted to go for the LG to take out rather than the rail. Rail would have opened him up a split second for some free damage, and in that push, he didn't want to take any risks. Did not stop him from getting fragged, though, as Av3k hit the godlike combo there, finishing the job. And oh, the surprise with the SSG!
Oh. What? Yeah, that's a smile, Av3k. Not entirely sure how RAISY walks away with that one, but it is just before the Mega, though, so Av3k will pick that up. And a frag as well. This game is still on catch-up.
Oh, it's wide open, mate. Plenty of opportunity. LG from RAISY hurts an absolute ton, though. And, ooh, a little bit of bonus damage there by Av3k using the Pika and actually put himself into the acid. Yeah, you're completely right. There is absolutely time for this win to still go to Av3k. As difficult as it will be, though, if he can pull off nice little combos like that and just continue that momentum and make the most of it, there is a chance. RAISY will not make it easy. A minute and a half, he's now going to be able to, if he wishes, change that gameplay, become a lot more, put up a brick wall, become hyper defensive. Av3k The play around this heavy is so important. Gets 2 rails, but it's not going to be enough as he takes 1 unreturned. And even though he hit 2, that is not going to help him. RAISY secures another frag here, and he gets the rail off the spawn. That is the worst thing that could have happened to Av3k right there. And it's bad to worse. Ring out. Melts the feet.
That first 3-4 minutes where RAISY just played slow, tricky, must have been so frustrating for Av3k. And then only to come away with nothing of all of that pressure. It's demoralizing at that point. So incredible performance by RAISY. As you said, virtually no action really going on during that period, but still an incredible game because of all of that strategy. And now the gauntlet comes out just to rub a little bit of salt into the wounds.
It was a hard-fought match, though, and it's not every day that you see a map be totally flipped on its head without a frag being the catalyst. It was all about that struggle for power, the struggle for positioning, the absolute moment Av3k. It was that moment within about 3 minutes or so where Av3k had such a control over the entire map. He had all the items, he had all the weapons, he had the timing on the 2 major items, and it was that one moment you went, right, let's make something happen from this. Whatever it was, didn't quite go to plan, and it just resulted in RAISY slipping by, and just like that was the one that controlled that higher ground. And the moment that happened, Av3k was just totally unable to bring that back, to get that control back, and then it ultimately leads to frags, RAISY being unbelievable with some of those traps that he lays too. That's now 2 times back-to-back on 2 different maps that he's caught Av3k totally by surprise, jump scares you. On the first map, it was with a rocket. In this map, it was with a super shotgun. But really smart play from RAISY on that second map. And he's looking fantastic today.
Absolutely. 2 polar opposites in terms of game style. Obviously, map 1, all about the execution, constant aggression and fighting from both fronts. This time, he allowed Av3k to have that advantage because he respected it. He respected the pressure Av3k had. He respected the positioning, the control, and just decided to play smart. And he takes up these fantastic positions and approaches that nobody else in the Pro League does. The way he thinks about the game is totally different to any other players, which is why it looks so simple, yet it's so difficult to read all at the same time. And we saw Av3k there getting caught out a number of times, and this time the damage was way different because he just was unable to track down RAISY for large portions of that map despite the control he had. So that was a great game by RAISY.
Overall, a series win for RAISY, but that doesn't mean that Av3k can't get at least 1 map on the board here. Just to remind everyone, you know, we're not at the end of our weeklies yet, but we're definitely in a position where we're going to start to consider later results. You know, players are going to be fighting out of relegations. Players of this caliber are more so going to be looking for, you know, the rewards that a higher positioning on the leaderboard will provide. So that's still something to consider. Any map is going to matter, especially if it's a series like this where it's RAISY versus Av3k, 2 gods going head to head. Not every single player in Pro League is RAISY, right? So if you can get a map on someone who, yeah, he's dominantly and comfortably taken the first 2 maps here. If you can end the series by at least getting 1, look, better than nothing. And who knows how much it's going to help you a few weeks down the line when things start to get tallied up and then we start to look at the shape of the finals, right? So anything versus RAISY here will be a small victory nonetheless, but with how RAISY's currently playing, this could be a 3-0. It could be.
Could be, but you know, we're going up to Corrupted Keep now where they will have to go toe-to-toe man-to-man and will be more even than we saw, particularly on map 1. So this should be the best map of the lot.
It was called RAISY's Keep for a reason, though. I remember the first year, it felt like absolutely nobody could touch him on this map. And there's one thing that's always been so scary about RAISY, and it's weapon choice. Like, as optimal gets. If there's a weapon needed for even a split second of a situation, you bet he's going to be the one to swap to it. And on a map like this, where every single weapon can be in perfect harmony, especially because there's no rail, it's a really, really, really scary strength to have. And even that, just no... He jumped down towards that light armor, and he at that point had already turned around expecting Av3k to go for it at the same time. Like, bro, come on.
And that's what's been most impressive so far across these two maps. It's just the way he's reading Av3k has been so impressive.
Two players known for tactical aggression. They do say that great minds think alike. There's got to be an element of RAISY here thinking, what would I do in that situation? However, either way, there is a significant divide instantly between these major items, and that does make me a little bit fearful for Av3k, because even that, look at how much damage, and RAISY is going to just fly through that doorway. Av3k preemptively setting up a totem though, and not only healing 100 for himself, but dealing 100 to RAISY with that rocket. Another one in an overstack. Man refuses to die. So healthy, but that's not going to stop RAISY. How has RAISY done that much damage? Like, yes, Av3k secured that frag, but it took 2 separate full heals from a totem to do it, and still RAISY almost took him out. But now here comes Av3k, the turn of momentum begins. Here we go.
Yeah, brute force right there, but the second pickup from Av3k was perhaps a little bit too greedy from RAISY to push on in there with just the rocket launcher. So Av3k does punish him for that to take the lead here. Pretty much for the first time since the beginning of map 1, so now just needs to continue that momentum. RAISY though has whittled down his opponent and has got better position for this next heavy.
Wonder if RAISY is going to have to analyze on the fly about the aggressive approach. Has not been as successful, and that's in no small part to Av3k's totem placement. Being able to keep himself alive. In instances where he absolutely would have gone down, he had that totem in his back pocket to just drop down, keep himself healthy, and then it becomes a major risk if RAISY wants to stick around and keep that pressure on. And the management, the amount of health that he's picking up, let's not forget, Galena, cooldown reduced whenever you pick up a health item on a map like this. You're going to have a lot more totems than you might expect.
The pressure's mounting now. RAISY's going to be here once again, this time with a heavy machine gun, not one wanting to maintain his stack and just get back to that high ground position.
You can just see the range that Av3k is playing. He's not looking for these close range encounters at all, I think. He's gone up against a Doomslayer as well. Doomslayer against an LG has got to be so careful with that double jump. Doomslayer and LG are not exactly the best of friends, but with a vertical one like that...
How did RAISY do so much damage to kill him before the pickup? That was nuts.
I think I blinked and missed it, mate. There's the aggressive push, double jump to put himself even higher up. The LG from RAISY! RAISY's LG all series long has been exceptionally... Like, when he needs to get a good string of damage, he has consistently been able to do it. RAISY now in the lead, but marginally. Only one. Both items in play, and actually looks like both players, excuse me, more interested in delaying the two to the point where there was almost no delay between them. Love it when that happens.
Right. This map is by far the closest we've seen in terms of just overall gameplay. RAISY going in aggressively. They're missing the shotgun though. Av3k's healthy, got the totem as well, and RAISY makes an error.
It all came down to picking up that armor as well. Av3k heard that armor, and almost frame 1 had turned around and set himself up in position. That audio cue was all he needed to know that something wasn't quite right. Turn around and get some damage on deck. 2 frags in the lead now as Av3k looks to continue that lead. Doesn't look particularly healthy, but in 3 seconds, here comes another totem. And oh, that tri-bolt. A nice little drift away that says, I'm still here, and I still know where you are, mate.
Yeah, but look at the snowball right there. Big error to push on in so aggressively with the shotgun. And now Av3k's taken a healthy lead, all things considered.
More of that setup. A second totem is in play. Looks like one of them's going to go down to RAISY right there, though. Being able to manage those hourglasses and stay control of the Mega. 13 seconds. He's only just dropped one, and Av3k's going to be able to drop a second. If he controls that LG room, it's going to be so much harder for RAISY to push, and he's going to be aggressive with these rockets and secure one, but he has to watch out for these totems. He is in kill territory even now. And he starts to stop the bleeding with a few of these small pickups. He is going to be in position for that heavy, but it looks like Av3k's going to use that downtime to pick up some rather key weapons of his own and control Mega at the same time. And Mega's so good for Galena.
The tempo's really slowed down now, seeing much more about this mid-range, trying to catch your opponent. Just a little bit more efficiency than them. Yeah, Av3k was prepared and is incredibly healthy, and the Galena has been used to great effect, as you pointed out. These totems are constant. Yes, I think we've only seen the overstack once, but it feels like virtually every totem has had maximum efficiency. They're not just laid down to wait to build an overstack. It's all about maintaining that health.
But at the same time, it's no wonder that RAISY has started to, I think, shift the gear down a notch, because the hyper-aggressive approach that he took at the very beginning was being matched instantly by that totem use that Av3k brought forward. In 2 seconds, he's going to have access to another one. He's just dropped down to get heals, so now he has access to even more heals if he wants it. Yeah, RAISY has just taken the Mega, but with the health that Galena has on deck, coupled with the fact that the heavy just went into the favor of Av3k, that is not a bad situation at all, and I think it's why RAISY's had to slow down things a bit. He's been way too aggressive at the very beginning. Understandably, you'd think it would work because of the last 2 maps, but here, that sustain has been far too prominent.
Oh, RAISY's taking a big risk. I was about to say, neither player willing to step outside their comfort zone. They're both quite happy just to play around the major items that they have been consolidating. Looked like RAISY was making the maneuver over to the heavy, but instead doesn't. But he has now delayed this Mega. He realizes he needs to put a change onto this map. And a huge rockets from Av3k. The risk from RAISY doesn't pay off.
And another totem to drop down to make the fight even worse. RAISY, you are done in that situation. It was good that he was at least able to take the Mega, I suppose, but at the same time, again, those totems have been so irritating for RAISY, who just wants to get damage on deck. And here comes Av3k with that Galena saying, nope, you have to do so much more work. Masterful use of the champion and perfectly executed by Av3k right now. And it has been a flawless answer for RAISY's almost counter-aggression.
Yeah, he's built a sizable lead now. It's difficult to see how RAISY gets back into this one. Av3k's control has just been too good. He's been just playing a lot safer than in maps 1 and 2 as well. Playing around the mid ground, letting RAISY come to him. We saw, as you said, RAISY trying to step change it, but it just wasn't to be. And he took a big risk delaying that Mega, and Av3k punished him for it.
This goes back to what we discussed at the beginning with players of a certain caliber that are just absolute masters of disregarding previous results and just playing fresh every single map. Av3k has had far from the most successful experience in this entire series, but has been so rock solid and on it. I mean, here come the GGs. RAISY with a GG, understanding that just really didn't believe there was a chance to come back now. The headset comes off and the final map rolls out with a success for Av3k. And just like that, it will become a 2-1. So a last laugh here for Av3k, and played, gotta be said, really, really well. That is some of the scariest use of Galena totems I think I've seen in a while, because it just felt like he was never even close to going down in so many of those engagements. The management was wonderful.
Helped that his LG was on fire throughout this series. We saw a little bit of it in map 2, but map 3, it came to fruition right there. He was able to just punish RAISY. So amazing series. I think it was the best series of the day. Yes, probably not the most amount of action in maps 2 and 3, but the strategy and everything was just flawless. So incredible series.
Well, I think overall a great display from both of them. RAISY will be feeling no doubt good just after having a series win overall. I think a lot of players of this caliber are never going to be satisfied unless they get a 3-0, let's be real. But that's why players of this level can strive for perfection, because they are the best of the best. So when any single map counts, you never really want to give one to your opponent. But with two players like this and how scary RAISY was able to look on those first two maps, always able to remind us like why he's here and why he's been considered one of the best for so long, and just continues to improve in various areas. Sometimes it can feel a bit like RAISY can have some off moments, maybe an off tournament, maybe an off series. So not the world's most consistent player, but when RAISY is like online, definitely one of the scariest players in the world.
Exactly. And just that mix-up in strategy, the variation in his play now, that puts him at another level. Just the way in which we talked about it in the map too. Some of the pathing he takes, the decisions he makes, it's just so uncharacteristic of what we see from other players, and it's disconcerting to play against him. And he catches you off guard, which is a really unique trait and obviously highly valuable. So that was amazing. And what I said is that playstyle is not entirely possible on a map like Corrupted Keep. And we saw him struggle a little bit there because Av3k played so well and adjusted his game style accordingly. He could have gone more aggressive and RAISY would have punished him, but played slow and steady, played around the items nicely, and made RAISY come to him, and RAISY was losing out.
It's a nice reminder that Av3k can still step up no matter what. And it's why Av3k is held in such high esteem, because Av3k is able to look at a series like that where, yeah, the series win did not go his way, but that final map that would have naturally forced RAISY to have a different approach, Av3k was able to dominate on. And it just came down to his own wits, his fantastic LG, and as we start to see, you know, as this game evolves and this game develops, just a masterful use of a well-picked champion. So, looking at the majority of that map through Av3k's point of view, it just felt like he always had a totem ready to go. He was always at 100 health, and he was always at 100 health before he had the chance to drop another one. And then you just look at it and think, you've got to be a special kind of player to be able to break into that brick wall. Because RAISY tried. He tried at the start of it, and just for the life of him, could not do it. And from that point on, Av3k was very comfortable.
Exactly. Av3k put him under pressure where RAISY had to take risks to make something happen. The push with the shotgun when he messed up, and then the laying of that mega to try and break the cycle and disrupt the map cadence. Neither one worked, and Av3k punished him. So, yep, amazing game by Av3k. Showed why he's so resilient, why he's a former champion in himself. But RAISY does obviously take that series 2-1, which I'm sure he will feel good about.
But all in all, a fantastic day of Quake. Remember that if you like what you see, just get involved in social media, follow Quake on Twitter. You always have new information about like upcoming schedules and the upcoming weeklies. All of the information around QuakeCon, right? I mean, the official announcement was made. QuakeCon's coming back. And I think so many of us are unbelievably excited because it has been too long, I will say, since a lot of us were back there and we all got to hang out. You know, it has been a really, really, really long time. And I really enjoyed the QuakeCon at home activity. Although, obviously, we were working during those with the competitive Quake that was going on. But being the chance for everyone to just be back at QuakeCon again is something that I think is going to warm a lot of our hearts, right? Because it's been a long time since everyone was back together.
Yeah, we had a taster of it in Romania, but it's not QuakeCon really, is it? So nearly there, guys. We're nearly there.
Almost. However, that is all we have time for today. Thank you all so much for joining us. Thank you for sticking with us. Like I said, get involved in social media, find out about future weeks and all the stuff that's up and coming, exciting stuff for all the players, and just see where the progression leads for so many of the Pro League competitors. You know, we're seeing storylines continue and develop on a week by week, and that's what we love to see, and that's what it's all about. So thanks to you for watching. Thanks to everyone behind the scenes for making it work. Cheers, Dan, for joining me. Always a pleasure. And with all that said and done, this is Quake. Thanks for tuning in. See you next time. Peace out, much love, and take care.
Death is the only choice.